We've been married 4 years and I had just begun to get quite a bit of work singing in Australia with the opera company that I was attached to, and we were not seeing very much of each other. At that time, I can't remember the background, what was going on in our relationship, apart from the fact that we never saw each other. I decided I needed a few days away from Paul, and it coincided with him having to travel home to his family. At that point, I actually seriously considered leaving Paul.
I remember the time quite clearly. At the time it was my mother's 60th birthday. So I went home to visit her with my brothers and sisters, and we bought her a present and this sort of thing. And until that time I'd never missed an opening and closing night of any of my wife's operas. It was the first opening night I'd ever missed, but I had my mother's birthday, then I was off to a training course. And I remember going to the course. I kept trying to ring Bridget. I said, where on earth is she? She should be home now. I want to see how the opening night went, to see how it went. And it was about 3 days before I could contact her. And she gave me all this emotional business about I wasn't there for her and why didn't she come first all the time and this sort of thing.
I felt that he didn't understand the world that I was in, the demands that were being made. In music, you hear comments a lot when you're a young singer. Your teachers are to be treated as if they are God. You must do everything you possibly can to the exclusion of all others. And you do have to be single-minded, very much so. You cannot afford the intrusion of other things, and I felt that there were intrusions within our marriage and that it would be easier for me if I was by myself. Luckily, got through that period. I must say there were a lot of influences around me which were saying that it'd be better if I left Paul. It'd be totally different. I wasn't on top of the phrase last time, but that time it was in tune. Yeah. And the only other one before you leave was see if I can get this A floated a bit more brightly.
From there, I played the bar before.
We're very much opposites in aspects of personality. Bridget is very much the emotional, artistic one. I'm very much the logical, mechanical. And most of the time that's a good balance, because if Bridget's very emotional, the things happening in her music life, I'll say, look, here's the situation. You've got to sort this out, and then tomorrow we'll do that, and the next day we'll do that. And then things all calm down again, and I sort of put a logical aspect onto the emotional turmoil that might be there. But at the same time, being logical and mechanical, I can be very boring and limited in what I want to achieve at times. And my wife said, no, you go for it. If you want to do this, you try for it now.
A guy, a very attractive tenor, asked me if I would have an affair with him. And over dinner in a lovely London restaurant, the whole thing, it was beautiful. My first thought was, where's Paul? I got on a tube train across London. He was in work in an office in Kensington and Chelsea. I went into the secretary and said, I need to see my husband now. You can't, he's in a meeting. Tell him now. And he came out and we sat downstairs out in the gardens, and I said, this is the situation. This person has said to me, would I have an affair with him? And he looked at me and he said, well, most people would like to have what we have, so they poach one of the people. And I think you need to remind each other what it is that is really good about you and accept the things that are bad about you. And we seem to have done that reasonably well.
We've had quite a few issues, and I think one of the testing times for us was when we first came to England. Our whole life had been support with a lot of other people. Other families had come to visit us, we'd visit them, and we had a big extended family, lots of brothers and sisters coming to see us all the time, and we had lots of support groups. We came to England, there were just two, and I wasn't sure if we'd survive with just two of us living in a flat, nobody else, nowhere to hide. I didn't have my workshop to hide in, my wife didn't have her study to hide in. We just had to face every issue. And it was a very strange period of our marriage, because we said a new romance emerged for about the first 2 years. We said we actually got to know each other again. We had almost a romance for 2 years. I actually came home and there was dinner there, and it was our relationship just rebonded itself, renewed itself.
I got an ear. And I want some nose. Where's Reese gone? And he's going to... But where's Liam going to sit?
What food do you want for lunch, Liam?
Liam?
We have very close friends that we thought in Australia who were devout Christians who have split up. That does frighten me for a lot of reasons. If there was an issue where we both felt that we needed outside help, then I would definitely go for it. I would like to think that our first port of call would be somebody perhaps trained by the church, offered by the church, so that they could look at the aspect of, well, how is your faith at present? Do you believe that there's a continuity? Do you see yourselves both as a team, as it were? Reese, what?
I like that one.
Yeah. What would you like? Some bread and ham?
No.
No touch?
What's your special chair, Reese?
Until about 10 years ago, I just wouldn't believe in divorce. Marriage is for life, full stop. But one of my very close friends, who was a neighbour, she was being abused by her husband and various things like that. And after a while I said, well, I think, Bernadette, you're going to be better off being divorced from this person. And I thought I'd never hear myself say that. She'd explained even though they'd been married for 15 or 20 years, she'd never really had a close relationship with him and so on. And she stayed in the marriage partly because she was Catholic, but partly because the family told her not to marry him, and she felt to keep face with the family she had to try and stay with this person. So in the end I felt for her own happiness and even her mental state, she'd be better off without this person who was just constantly putting her down, making her feel less than she was.
This month, the boys don't have to see the osteopath for 6 weeks. I actually believe that people do have a right to divorce, and I think the church will have to address this issue. But I do not believe that divorce should be an easy option. We have to come full circle back to the marriage vows. And the problem that I have with this, and maybe I'm representative of a lot of Catholics in my, I don't know, you could call it middle class, left-wing, liberal upbringing, okay? There's a conflict here. I believe in the marriage vows. I believe in that trite little old thing called till death do us part. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the effort that I have made over the last 5 years with our sons and previously. Sort out what we're doing next weekend, Stephen Whiteling's party.
Marriage is hard work, and I think that's probably what it comes down to. These issues come up, sometimes it's nice to avoid them and just get rid of the other person, but when you put that effort into it and you work your way through it, or you just live with something, it gives you another bond between you, and it makes that marriage stronger.
Everything?
Yeah.
All done?
I'll just put some bleach through the sink. So